There was a 2019 survey that said 80% of students in American higher ed felt that service learning and civic engagement contributed to their leadership development, to their readiness for societal challenges. Why is it so hard to make this the norm?
I agree. I think there should be so much more of this. Just speaking from my own experience as a student, what you found was the students that were the most kind of plugged in, knew how to navigate the university or the college, the graduate school, could find those opportunities. I'm a first generation college student. Parents didn't go to college. So for me, I didn't know where to go for those opportunities. So I think there's a lot more college universities at all levels to be doing here.
Welcome to Radical Cooperation. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Horowitz, Chancellor of the Community Solution Education System. I've been in higher ed for nearly 40 years. I've been president of the Chicago School, and I founded the Community Solution Education System 15 years ago. I've spent my career advocating for collaboration as a powerful tool for institutional transformation. And today we're diving into a crucial topic, the role of universities in promoting civic engagement. Our world is grappling with deepening divisions. Universities hold a unique power to shape a more engaged and united society. We're not just places of learning, we're powerful institutions with the opportunity to shape the future of civic life. So a question I have going into today, are we doing enough? Are we cultivating the next generation of engaged citizens? And I have a phenomenal guest to take that topic on. I'm joined today by Dr. Matthew Nehmer. He's president of the Colleges of Law, one of 6 universities that make up the Community Solution Education System. He's had quite a storied career, 25 years of experience in higher ed, and he is absolutely passionate about fostering innovation and collaboration for societal good. So, Dr. Matt Niemer, thank you for joining me today.
It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
I think it'd be really interesting for our audience to hear a bit about the arc of your career. You've been president of the Colleges of Law for quite a while. Where'd you start in higher ed and how'd you get here?
Well, the journey began almost 26 years ago in Washington, D.C. My first position in higher ed was in the public affairs office at the George Washington University. I was at GW initially as a graduate student, and then I got a position at working for the university. I worked my way up to be the assistant director of media relations for the university. So I was one of the spokespeople for the school. I got to be involved with all the special events and just crisis communications, and but did that for about 7 years. Had a great experience, but wanted something new. I wanted to get closer to where I'm from. I'm from the Midwest, which led me to Chicago, which led me to your office, Michael, almost 20 years ago. And you imagine, I sat with you, and I still remember that conversation where you were at that time the president of the Chicago School, and you said, we're the best psychology school in the country. We're better than Northwestern. You remember this conversation?
I do. And you were our first director of communications.
Right. And so you invited me to serve the Chicago School as doing communications. They work with marketing, public relations. I did a lot of work with the board, working with you, and had a great experience. What was great about the Chicago School in those days is, which was so different than GW, is you had so much opportunity. You could do so many different things. We were finding our way in those days. And then when you set up the education system 15 years ago, you invited me to be, I think, one of the initial employees of that. I think I don't know if we counted employees. Remember I'm employee 5, I'm employee 6. I was one of original employees when you started that. And wow, what a journey it's been since then, huh? I mean, just the last 15 years, we started with just the Chicago School and PO, and then the Colleges of Law was one of the original schools as part of the system. And I worked closely with the Colleges of Law on the system side for a number of years. And then I was invited back to serve the Chicago School in a couple of positions, including campus dean for Los Angeles. That's what got me out to California. And then 9 years ago, going on a decade ago, I saw the opportunity here at the Colleges of Law to serve in a new way, and I was invited by the board to do so.
It's a great demonstration of the varied and multiple careers we can have in that one career. We certainly have learned a lot together about articulating the message, making it crisp and clear. I would say that all 6 of our colleges and universities are maverick institutions. Give us a little bit of setup on the 50-year or so history of the Colleges of Law. What makes it different? What's its role within the legal education community?
I think we have very proud and great history. We actually just celebrated our 55th anniversary this year. So do the math. We started in 1969. And here in Ventura County, if you wanted to be an attorney, there was no opportunity for you in the county. If you wanted to be an attorney, you had to go to a law school down in LA County or up north. You better be young, because those schools were all day programs, full time. Because you couldn't have a job, definitely couldn't have a family. So if you had a job and a family, you wanted to be an attorney, there was no opportunity for you in Ventura or even Santa Barbara. And that's when the founders set up this school as a night school, as an opportunity school. And they had this vision that this could be a really good thing for the community and for the local legal community. And it has been. Santa Barbara was founded a few years later, and they merged as one school in the late 70s and came into the system in 2010. And I can say, because I've lived on both sides of this, that the before and after picture of the Colleges of Law with our work with the system is just couldn't be more dramatic from what it was before. Doing great things, no doubt. Don't want to say otherwise, but just what we've been able to do in the last 15 years, just extraordinary, and what we've been able to accomplish. First law school in the state of California, accredited law school to offer a hybrid JD program. We set that up years before other law schools followed. And again, wouldn't have been able to do that if not for the system.
Well, that's a great background. And what I've observed in your 9 years of leadership of the law school is a high degree of civic engagement. And the way you describe the connectivity to a new community to come in as law students, to me, that speaks to civic engagement, number one. You've gone further and said it's important to connect on key issues with the larger community. I'd like to ask you, though, to kick us off and define civic engagement and why it's important.
I'm going to use a line that I'm going to credit Stephen Joel Trachtenberg, a fellow you know, Michael. Dr. Trachtenberg was the president of GW for many years. And the way he talked about civic engagement was, he said, GW doesn't want to be just in the community, but of the community. And that distinction just stayed with me. This idea that we have an opportunity, but also an obligation to be part of the fabric of the community in the same way that all schools are. And churches and community centers are spaces that bring people together. In our case of the Colleges of Law, civic engagement is through a lot of the public programming that we have put on. Very proud of that. That's something that I feel I brought to the school in an elevated way from what they were doing before. They were offering programming for the local legal community for continuing education, but not the public. The public wasn't really invited in as much. And so we've been working on that for almost 10 years now with debate programs and forums and panels. And that's just one way that we've been working to give back to the community through civic engagement.
So that's a really, in words, small distinction in the community versus of. Talk some more about that. There's a lot of criticism of universities that I guess are just in the community. You hear about town gown problems. So elaborate for us both sides of it. What would it mean to just be in the community, and how do universities promote being of the community?
For me, it's in the community is more of an insular worldview. Like we're here and we're really for, a very select, focused, narrowly focused audience. And for many years, and again, I don't want to disparage what it was like before I came here, but we're here for law students, and we offer, on the side some continuing education programming. I would talk to people that lived in, for instance, in Santa Barbara, that lived and worked in Santa Barbara for years, and they would walk by our law school. They didn't know what was happening in that school. They had no idea. When we have these public events, we had a number of them on campus. We'll have people from the community come in and like, I've been walking by this school for 22 years and I've never been inside. I've never been here. And same here in Ventura. That to me is the distinction of the community, means that we've opened the doors to the community. We're connected. We're glued into the conversations that are happening. We connected with the Chamber of Commerce in a way we didn't used to. We connected with the Civic Alliance in Ventura in a way we didn't. We just, just showing up and being involved and being engaged. That to me is of the community. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's really good. I think you're also hitting on what's a key critique of higher education in the past, and maybe growing these days, of being disconnected from the environment, the larger world around us, thinking that all the answers are inside versus letting outsiders in to inform what we do. I imagine that what you're doing with these events and engagement is also creating opportunity for students. I do want to note that I've seen you bring it online as well, because I've attended some of your engagements sitting here in Chicago and connecting in, I think, via Facebook Live. So you've talked about the importance of bringing the community in. Why is it important for students to either see or participate in these engagement events?
Well, students are here because they're looking for an experience. Obviously, for us, they're working on their law degree, and they have aspirations to be, many of them, most of them, a licensed attorney. But as part of their experience, we provide these opportunities for them to get involved and engage with each other. That happens a lot in the classroom. But those that come to our events really speak to the value of it, the appreciation they have for it. And we have had, you mentioned the debates. So we did a debate years ago. It was a student debate. You mentioned Facebook Live. We used to put our stuff up on Facebook Live. We're more on YouTube now. We thought that was a great program. One of the best programs we did was we featured students. Usually we bring in experts from, I actually think we could do more of that. I think we should do more of that, of having really student involvement. It gives them the opportunity to practice in making an argument before a public audience in a way that's different than before an audience of their peers or in the classroom. And I think they really appreciate it.
It seems to me that in our fragmented media world, a lot of universities are running into fire by bringing up broader political issues. You're teaching students, your faculty, your community, a way to have debate and discourse without it becoming extreme. Would you say that part of that is both teaching a way to engage and also keeping the issues more focused and local?
One way to have a very engaged conversation across a wide spectrum of philosophy is to give it some rules. And that's why we have a lot of fun with our debate program. So just to give a little background, We usually do the debates during election seasons, and we focus largely on the California ballot provisions. We thought that's the place where we could really make a contribution. So every 2 years, voters in California get these big ballots full of propositions, and they're trying to make sense of them, and they get all of these um, mailers. Their mailboxes are stuffed full of mailers about them. Vote no on this, vote yes on that. All these ads are running, same thing. And we thought, hey, here's a place where we can help. So we set up these programs. The one we did this last cycle was on rent control, which was Proposition 33, rent control. And we brought in an expert from both sides of that issue, and we gave it some rules. This is, okay, you're going to go first, then you have this much time, just like a debate you see on TV. And when that really is running well, it's in a very engaging format that allows for people to get their points across without talking over each other, and it's very, I think, enriching for the audience as well, because there's kind of equal time. You're not getting one kind of dominant voice out there. So I just see value in that. And, people want to have these discussions, but give it some structure. And that's something we've been really focusing on with our programming.
It's really powerful. It sounds to me like you're teaching a process for debate and engagement across an issue. Here in Illinois, we get our fair share of propositions as well. And as you and I know, we're a bit of political junkie class. These are issues, local races, hardly get voter participation. So often you're moving a significant issue to yes or no. There might be 7, 10, if you're lucky, 20% participation. You're kind of opening the eyes, it seems to me, of your student body and your broader community. This is really impactful, whether we're going to have rent control or not, whether we're going to vote for Uber and Lyft drivers to be independent contractors or employees. I know you've taken that on as well. So do you have some methodology in your mind as you choose the issues?
We look first at what we think about what kind of guests we can get. Some of the ballot propositions, like rent control, you're easy to explain both sides of it. The others, affirmative action we did in 2020, that was on the ballot here. You can explain that, and you can find people that will speak to both sides. So when the ballot provisions come out, that's what we're looking for. Would that make a good program? Is that something we can contribute to? Some of them are very lopsided, like, it's going to be hard to find somebody that would argue against this. If we did, who knows who they'll be. And so we won't look at that one. But thinking with the audience in mind, thinking we'll make the best program, that kind of informs our thinking as we make our selections.
And a lot of these discussions relate to legislation. Lawyers are disproportionately represented in government and politics. So again, it seems like you're getting multiple agendas accomplished. You're showing your students, who are going to be future attorneys, this is how we engage and how we lead.
That's the hope. And a lot of our students and graduates have an interest in serving in public service, and a lot of them have, whether in an elected position or appointed position. And I'm always looking for those students, trying to find them, because I just really value people that put themselves out there that way. I just can't think, I kind of like politicians for that reason. They put themselves out there, the good ones at least, and they're there for the right reasons. They believe in public service. They believe they want to make the world a better place, their community is a better place, and they're just trying to help. On the other side of it, I'll call them performance artists. They're there for themselves. They're there for, whatever kind of personal agenda they're up to. I'm looking for the kind of people that want to do that first category. And if we can create a forum for them to, that's where I like to do more student programming, and for them to kind of sharpen their skills around standing before a group of people, being able to read a room and make an argument for why them, if it's an election, or why their position. I think it's a great skill. Whether you run for office or not, it's a great skill to have.
We've talked recently about the fact that you have public service clinics, law clinics going in the community, dealing with some really critical issues. We're at this moment, especially with pardons coming down from President Biden, that's in the news. This whole idea of we have a lot of people incarcerated wrongfully. We have a lot of people who've been incarcerated for pot convictions when it was illegal. Now it's not. Legislation has passed that says, we want to make it possible for people to not be incarcerated who shouldn't be or have their records expunged. Yet we found the hard way it isn't that easy, and you typically need legal advice. Tell us how the Colleges of Law is participating in terms of legal clinics and helping your community be healthier through that service.
Well, great example. Another example of what we're doing to advance a civic engagement agenda for the Colleges of Law. So we've partnered with the Ventura County Legal Alliance, and they run these free clinics for the community, and they used to run them over at the courthouse, but we get kind of mixed results because people would have to, it's an imposing place to go, is a courthouse. You have to go through all this security, and maybe not everybody's comfortable with doing that. So they looked to us, and we had a great conversation with them. And then this past semester, we're talking here in the end of 2024, we started these free law clinics on our campus in Ventura. And it's once a month, and they're well publicized, and we have pro bono attorneys that come in and get their pro bono hours that way. And we didn't know what we would get, but then it exceeded all expectations. When these open up, we have people lined up to get into the campus. We have people with wagons full of documents. They bring a wagon full of documents because another place to put it all. And they bring it in, trying to make sense of all of this, because it's for many people, most people, it's confusing. They don't have access to private attorneys that can help them sort through this stuff, and you can really see that with these free legal clinics of just people trying to figure it out, trying to make sense of, maybe it's a landlord dispute issue, maybe they were evicted, and trying to make sense of what their rights are and where they have, is there anything they can do about this? We get a lot of those. You mentioned the clean slate clinics. We ran that up in Santa Barbara, and same idea. You come in, maybe homeless people or people with a record that they need some help with to be expunged, and we give them access to pro bono attorneys who can help them with that. It's just another example of I'll go back to the distinction, not being in the community, but of the community.
Yeah, I mean, those are fantastic stories, kinds of experience that is not inherently in the curriculum. There was a 2019 survey that said 80% of students in American higher ed felt that service learning and civic engagement contributed to their leadership development, to their readiness for societal challenges. Overwhelmingly, I would say the community feels that students with that experience are better employees. They're more responsible. And so I'm left with the question of, why is it so hard to make this the norm? Higher ed talks a lot about service learning, getting experience. What makes this still be kind of outside the pale and not fully integrated into how we think about education at every level?
I agree. I think there should be so much more of this. Just speaking from my own experience as a student in my journey through higher education, what you found was the students that were the most kind of plugged in, that knew how to navigate the university or the college, the graduate school, could find those opportunities. I'm a first generation college student. Parents didn't go to college. So for me, it was, I didn't know where to go for those opportunities. So I think there's a lot more college universities at all levels could be doing here. And really embracing it is something that's part of what they offer. And I keep going back to this word experience. People go to college not just to learn, not just for the diploma at the end of their journey, but for the experience, for the memories, for the whatever it is, and just being very intentional about creating those experiences for students. The work that we did together, you started this, really was to study abroad. Independent graduate schools don't have a lot of those opportunities. I know you brought that to the Chicago school, and it lifted off. And we were the first to do it at the College of Law. We've been to, and you were there with us in Cuba. We've been to South Africa and Sweden most recently. Those are experiences that, until we came along and the system came along, were not available to our students.
You're describing make things happen, get out there, connect with others. So how do you reflect? I mean, the Colleges of Law has grown a lot in your presidency, and you're a relatively small institution. Are there obstacles for you in doing more? Are there obstacles you see for the bigger institutions that you think are staying in that position of in the community versus of? What are the obstacles to doing more of this? And how do we as higher ed overcome them?
The first thing to do is listen to students and come at them where they're at. So I'll give you an example. Study abroad. It's a good one. When you think of study abroad, if you're not used to what we do, you think of like a semester abroad or a year away. For people, even at the undergraduate level that work, there's no way they can do that. It's not even an option for them. And if they have a family, not an option. So what you created at Chicago School that's been developed further is it's study abroad, but it's maybe 7 or 10 days in country. I can get away for 7 or 10 days or 5 days, whatever it is. And so that's coming at the